This is Catalyst Unlocked, people who are shaping the next decade from the heart of the UAE. Welcome back to Catalyst Unlocked. I'm your host, Lindsey Cauble, and this is where we sit with the people shaping tomorrow. The leaders, innovators, and visionaries who are not just talking about change, but driving it. Today, I'm honored to be joined by Faisal Sajwani. He's an Emirati entrepreneur, advisor, and thought leader whose work spans real estate, finance, technology, and sustainability. As the managing partner of MS Consulting, Faisal works with organizations to embed sustainability into their business models in ways that are both meaningful and lasting. He's also a published author and mentor committed to empowering the next generation of leaders. What stands out most about Faisal is not just the breadth of his accomplishments, but the depth of his purpose. His journey is one that blends business success with a deep commitment to integrity, sustainability, and legacy. Today, we'll explore who he is as a person, the story behind his professional journey, and where he sees leadership and sustainability heading in the years to come. Faisal, welcome to Catalyst Unlocked. Thank you for being here. I'm really happy to have you here. We have an amazing discussion ahead of us, but I just want to jump right into it. If I look at your bio, you're an author, you're an entrepreneur, a consultant, you are a speaker as well. But if we really look down at the core of who you are as a person, tell us a little bit about yourself and your beginning.
Well, thank you so much for having me on this podcast.
Yes.
So this is actually a question I came across quite a few years ago. So had someone ask me, they said, take away the titles, take away where you come from, your age, and just tell me, deep down, like who you are. And I kept contemplating about that. And as a human being, I'm driven by purpose, and it's about impact that I strive to achieve. So simply put, I would say just a person who's looking to create impact, no matter how big or small, making sure that I leave behind something that I can call a legacy.
Well said. Legacy is a really important, when you strip away all of the material things and titles, as you said perfectly yourself, who are you as a core person? What will you leave behind? What do people say about you? You are local, Emirati.
Yes.
And amazing. Alhamdulillah. And has this culture shaped you, of course, in professional ways, in ways that you live your life? And can you share a little bit of insight on that as well?
As a proud Emirati, I've seen the country pretty much start from a desert all the way into a international hub. So that's, you can say, perspective of growth happening at such a fast pace. I always say that what took Europe around 400 years to do. So we've done it because we coupled ambition with purpose, and it helped us move much further away than many nations have done. So it influenced a lot of the perspective that I have, and this filtered through in business as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's looking at companies. So I've advised startups, multinationals from all around the world. And startups, to be specific, it's basically on growth and scale. So when we're looking at a startup, how can we grow a startup to X amount of revenue or valuation in a shorter amount period of time? So if it takes 5 years to do what normally would, I would probably find some sort of an efficiency model that would do it in 2 years.
So you answered my question. Seeing how this country has taken action so quickly. You've directly taken that and translated into your professional life. So you are always looking to optimize and make your own personal actions more efficient as well.
It's based out of experience. You get to build such things, and specifically speaking, looking at the culture itself, and we're considered to be a young nation, and in comparison to other countries in the world. And what we've done is pretty much what some people would call a miracle. Or
I think it's phenomenal. I'm an outsider myself. I was born and raised in America. So to have the privilege to be here and witness firsthand this country and the way that it has progressed and will continue to progress, it is absolutely phenomenal. You yourself, you're an author of 2 books. I have a question for you. Has your definition of success changed over the years?
yes, it did, for sure. And anyone who would tell you it didn't isn't saying the truth. And what we define success as children is not the same as we do as teenagers.
Of course.
And then maybe early adulthood, even going through different phases of your whole life. So success was pretty much defined by results. It was defined by ambition, and now it's more purpose-led. It's more about you got to know your why first, and the how will just unfold.
A purpose-driven and passion-driven legacy and process.
Exactly.
You've had very influential roles in this country. You've served as a very special advisor for quite some time as well, I saw. I would love to hear more about that. And what lessons did you learn in that time as an advisor and serving those roles here?
So my journey was quite interesting. So I hold a degree in international affairs. I'm a son of an ex-diplomat. So my father was a diplomat, a retired one. And I was pretty much influenced by that. So in academia, I'm still passionate about it until today as a study, and the art of diplomacy is something that I take every day. Coupled that with my 13 years of experience in psychology, it makes a good combination for advising companies and government entities. The journey went from real estate to banking, and that was pretty much my corporate tenor, let's call it that way.
Okay.
And it's a story that's I've said it so many times, but it still, gives me that initial feeling every time I recall it. So the moment I realized that I would leave the corporate world, I was in the banking space and top performer in the department, a valuable asset to the bank, a government-owned bank. And basically speaking, I got my promotion at 12 p.m. I submitted my resignation at 2 p.m.
So you have the classic textbook definition of success. Everything's great. You're in the corporate world, climbing the ladder. It's a great time. And then you decide to leave immediately after you get a promotion. Why?
So that was the, I guess, HR's $1 million question.
Stop.
They kept thinking that I got the better offer somewhere.
Yeah.
And I told them, honestly speaking, no, I've had a plan since the beginning. Ever since I graduated from university, I said, I'll join the corporate world. I gain momentum, experience, and then I'll start my own companies. So I knew what I wanted to do from the beginning. So when I left banking, I started my first company, which is coaching and advisory.
Yes.
And I was advising founders and co-founders on growth and scale. And it's interesting to look at let's call it a variable of factors that play when it comes to different startups, different stages. Also, the fact that we live in a country that has more than 160 nationalities,
That's right.
people from different backgrounds. One thing they all share in common, though, is that they all have ADHD.
We do have
So,
one of the largest expat communities here in the country. That's absolutely right. So, what experiences in real estate and in your banking career led you to then shift into guiding these young startups for growth and for strategy? How did those two fit together exactly?
so you can take from every industry or sector something, and you can go and implement it. So in real estate, it's about efficiencies, it's about processes, it's about delivery, timelines. So how to make look at construction, for example, and look at reducing construction time, reducing injuries that are happening from workers,
Okay.
and looking
Very
at
true.
the whole construction process. So that these are very simple yet valuable type of perspectives to gain from real estate. In banking, it's just the dynamic nature of banking. So I was in treasury, and in treasury we say every hour is different from the other. The market changes, fluctuates. The market reacts to it, and whether in a positive or a negative way. So that type of, let's call it, dynamic approach made me understand how startups work. And the journey of an entrepreneur is, it's a roller coaster each day. It's a highs, ups and downs. And one moment they're like, we're crushing it. The second moment is like, oh, how are we going to survive the next month?
You have to be a very strong person and strong mind for
Exactly.
entrepreneurship. That's fair. They are transferable. You're just applying them in a different scenario. And you had the years of expertise to be able to be adaptable, to be an expert in that way with those skills. And then you decided now is the time. No, thank you for the promotion. I'm going to step out onto my own, which is, I commend you on that. That's very respectable. Is this when you founded MS Consulting?
No, MS Consulting actually came a bit later on. So during my coaching and advisory time, so I can probably backtrack the birth of MS Consulting to 14 years ago.
Okay,
And that's
cool.
my encounter with sustainability.
Yeah.
So I'll backtrack a little bit and go back to where we're currently at. So 2009, the moment let's call it, fell in love with sustainability, I attended the World Future Energy Conference in Masdar City, the first sustainable city in the region. We haven't seen something like it back in 2009.
Mustag City.
Yeah, Masdar City.
Masdar City.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's in Abu Dhabi, the first sustainable city that was built in the region, and it was a phenomenon.
Very nice.
So the World Future Energy Conference was attended by experts, world leaders, head of governments, anyone who had some influence on policy. And I remember meeting the president of Iceland back then. And he kept talking about how Iceland is a role model of sustainability, talked about the different innovations they have. So ever since, sustainability just stuck with me.
He planted the seed
Exactly.
that day in your mind.
So it's that wow effect that I had from Masdar City, a sustainable city that my own country has built. And I wasn't pretty much, let's call it, surprised, but it definitely gave me that wow effect.
That was the pivotal moment for you when your eyes were opened. You're like, this is something. I don't know yet, maybe quite how this is going to happen or what influence it might have later, but that was the moment for you.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. I love that.
So just to flash forward, so right during the time that I was advising startups, I came across private equity, and that's pretty much when I encountered a member of a royal family based in Sharjah. And he came up to me and he said, Faisal, well, I'm restructuring my board and I want you to sit on the board of my private office.
Oh, amazing.
So pretty much it just played out, and I introduced sustainability as a mandate. So we were the first royal family office to have sustainability as one of the main mandates in the UAE. Then afterwards, you'd get to see the other royal family offices replicating the model. But for me, it's a collaborative space. I was a person who led the movement. Let's call it that way, and people followed. So MS Consulting came into birth during that point of period where I realized I sat on different boards and we had discussions, but then companies and board members would come up and say, hey, they don't know where to start.
Right.
They don't know what to do.
They don't.
So I said, well, hey, there's a gap, and my expertise and experience of 14 years plays a great role in that. I'm a trusted advisor to government, and I'm a trusted advisor to corporations, so I'll just fill the gap.
That was your entry point.
Exactly.
That was time to educate myself on this. And did you have a lot of understanding of how to bridge that gap at that point in time?
So I have accumulated a lot of knowledge and experience through working with different startups, with different multinationals, with different large enterprises. And I got to pretty much put a nice package where I'm able to navigate companies from going from their initial point of view, looking at where they are, doing their materiality assessments, and then all the way into a point where they fully integrated sustainability into their business models, and up to a point where they're ready to also report and disclose.
You mentioned something a few minutes back that really stuck in my mind, and you said you wanted to take a collaborative approach for solving these problems. And my question for you is, did you find that when you were beginning to work with these family offices and these higher level corporations, companies, did you find that you received some pushback for a collaborative effort and approach, and found maybe it was a bit of a competitive space? You seem to be more on the collaborative nature. So how do you navigate through scenarios like that?
I'd say I was very cautious and picky about who I worked with.
That's important.
And the mentality of the C-level executives, the chairmen, the owners of the companies mattered. And I was pretty much vetting them at some point to onboard them as clients. Because it's important for me to work towards the collective growth of an industry, or as sustainability is sector agnostic. So I would say it's collectively improving the local economy, the global economy, moving towards a much more resilient, future-ready market and global economy.
It is something that has a global impact, the term sustainability or ESG, and it's something that is at the forefront of your professional life, actually. And it having that big impact, there are a lot of regulations coming out for sustainability and for ESG. How do you best guide your clients through this process? And can you tell us about the term greenwashing?
So when we're talking about ESG, we basically speaking look at sustainability from three different lenses: the environmental, the social, and the governance lens. And when we look at it from that perspective, we pretty much look at it from, let's call it a structural point of view. Three pillars that pretty much hold the overall umbrella of sustainability.
Environmental, social, and governance. Okay, I'm with you.
One cannot exist without the other. As you can see with any structure, you remove one pillar, the rest
It shifts.
collapses.
Yeah.
Right? They cannot hold the pressure. So the social element is pretty much the most crucial one. And when people talk about sustainability, the first thought that comes to mind is climate change.
Right.
Or environmental.
Usually, yes.
But that's not all of it. There's the environmental side, there's the social, which is very crucial, and the governance. If you focus too much on the environmental, then you miss out on the social and the governance aspects. So it's a type of guidance system, let's call it that way, that would enable you to make your business resilient, future ready. And it's about looking at ESG from a perspective that it's not CSR, it's not philanthropy, it's not a PR stunt.
Right. Exactly.
ESG is a business strategy. And if you get that business strategy right, then it's a profit-making mechanism. It's a value driver. And that's where we're shifting.
It improves the longevity of your business.
Exactly.
It's perfect. How do you find that UAE compares to other countries when it comes to the regulations with companies meeting the standards that have been set?
So UAE is very advanced, and we're making let's say great strides when it comes to sustainability as a whole. So recently, the Chapter 11 Federal Decree on the reduction of climate change effects got into effect back in May 30th. And that's pretty much requiring companies to align with the overall national sustainability agenda, more or less with the net zero strategy of 2050.
Correct.
And it's basically focusing on carbon emissions. So as a collective, we should be reducing our carbon emissions to a certain level where we would actually reach 2050 and be completely net zero. Now there's challenges along the way and so on and so forth. Sustainability has been looked at as a Western import.
Okay.
Specifically from Western Europe, but we've taken that and we've created a local imperative towards it. So we've localized it because sustainability goes back to our founding father, the late Sheikh Zayed, where he planted palm trees. And I think one example that I can make is that when you enter into Abu Dhabi, the way you can notice you entered Abu Dhabi is through the green fences.
Absolutely.
And that's a whole natural preservation. All types of species and plants are there. So sustainability goes very, very early on, if you think about it.
It's not necessarily something that's very new or very green, so to speak. And the UAE is actively releasing new legislation and initiatives that align with the net zero 2050 goals. How do you see that we will reach them, and what are the best ways, and are there any barriers that you see coming up in the next decade?
So when it comes towards, so we've seen the shift, right, from ESG as a PR type of exercise into organizations realizing that, hey, it's starting to become a strategic imperative for us.
From a buzzword to action implementation.
Exactly.
So important.
So this is where the gap is, actually. Where do you start? How do you go from glossy reports to measurable impact?
Yeah.
Results-oriented type of approach. So it's a process, and the way we come in is that we look at a corporation, we do our materiality assessment, we we ensure that companies don't make extremely ambitious and unachievable type of claims.
Mm-hmm.
Start with what you have and build up from there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a ripple effect type of an approach where the more you focus on specific segments and specific operations of verticals in a business, the more you can replicate and the larger the impact is. We felt that shift, and the shift is happening. Specifically speaking, people or organizations have abandoned reliance on the big four consulting firms. Big four consulting firms have always pretty much provided some sort of an insurance to large corporations. If things go bad, blame it.
We have your back. Don't worry. No problem. We'll take care of you.
So when things go bad, the first point of view that they look at, hey, company X has given us a strategy. It failed. Blame it on them. So it was some sort of a lack of accountability type of issue.
This is where some are falling short, actually. And this is where you come in with MS Consulting, because you're not only helping them lay a very reasonable roadmap, a foundation that's strategic, it's structured, and then you're making sure that they don't get ahead of themselves, that they overpromise crazy goals or deliverables, but it's something that is sustainable, and you're with them through every single step of the way.
Exactly. And we start with strategy and we move to implementation, because strategy without implementation is just words on paper, right?
Exactly.
And this is what we've seen in the past with a lot of our clients saying it's just a strategy document that they've paid X amount of hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars, and it just ends up in someone's desk collecting dust. So we specifically become part of the implementation process.
We have a responsibility to not repeat previous mistakes and to set a better precedent moving forward, which I see that is something you're clearly doing, and I know this country will benefit greatly from that. I hear that you're a speaker coming up very soon for Entrepreneur Middle East. Can you share with us a sneak peek, a little bit of an insight on what you'll be speaking about there?
So it's basically, I'll be speaking in a panel, and it's focusing on greenwashing, and I'll define what greenwashing is for the audience. It's tackling the question, is greenwashing basically a hurdle towards achieving net zero by 2050? Now, greenwashing is basically coming in and saying that you've exaggerated reporting on a certain impact.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take, for example, that you're in the manufacturing industry.
Okay.
And your carbon emissions are up the ceiling.
Sky high.
And you come in and you say, hey, we've implemented recycling bins in our offices.
Okay.
This is greenwashing. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to divert people's attention into something that actually does not even
make an impact,
move the needle.
Not at all.
So that they don't focus on your emissions that are crazily affecting the environment. So that's a prime example of what greenwashing is. And sometimes companies don't realize that they're greenwashing because of the perspective that PR looked at sustainability as a buzzword. So what they want to do is, hey, let's show that we're very sustainable. We care about the environment.
Right.
We care about the community we operate in. We care about our employees. We constantly report and so on and so forth. And that's all superficial sustainability is more than that. ESG is more than that. And the quicker you move from it being as a PR type of exercise into an actual business strategy, that's when you get to see your efficiencies, your optimizations. We have prime examples of companies saving millions of dollars annually just because of implementing ESG. So we turned it from a cost center to a profit driver.
So actually, what you're doing is providing that outlet for them to say, okay, we see that you have this problem. We're here to support you. And in the best ways, as you just mentioned, it becomes a very positive impact financially for them as well.
Exactly. And we come in to educate. And our first step in our advisory process is that training is essential. We build ESG capacity in an organization, and that makes every single employee understand how ESG makes their work life better. How does that relate to their tasks? How can ESG become a lens that they can become more productive, become more efficient? So if you look at it as training just to tick a box, then employees are just going to sit there and they're going to go back to their offices and think, hey, we ticked the box. They won't utilize it. And you need to create a bridge between training and implementation. And how does that apply to their day-to-day work?
That's a great question. You're shifting their like fundamental company culture in a sense. How do you do this?
We don't start from the bottom. We go from the top. So training usually is pushed by corporations towards the bottom side of the hierarchy.
I see.
And we say, hey, it needs to sit at the executive board level.
It's you too.
You guys should sit in training rooms and basically understand what it is and how you can apply it. And then it will filter through the rest of the organization. Because if I go as an employee in operations and try to look at sustainability from a point of view of how can it make my work better, how can I be more efficient, but then leadership does not have that type of knowledge.
Right, you feel a block.
Exactly.
And able to move forward.
Then there is a clear, let's call it mismatch between vision and implementation.
I believe a company is only as strong as its leadership. So you're taking that principle directly by shifting the culture, the mindset, and the habits of the top of the leader so it can trickle down through the rest of the company. That's very nice. Is there anything that you'd like to share more about sustainability or ESG at this time? Anything you feel that we haven't touched on yet?
So we're still, let's call it, as a country, in the awareness phase. And it's about building up awareness. It's about, so we are the only consulting/advisory firm that is federally endorsed to provide ESG trainings in the whole UAE. We're the only Emirati-led ESG consulting firm. So, and we're local, right? Homegrown. We're from here. We understand the local market better than anyone else. We don't come from the outside and try to bring some global perspectives and say, hey, this is what works. No. We come from here, we bring the local insights and the real data.
Yeah.
So we educate on regulations. We educate on how data is very essential to utilize in your business and how accurate data plays a big part. So we do a lot of stress testings. We do a lot of accuracy checks and constant assessments and evaluations making sure that not only the data is accurate, but it's also up to date, because it's a very dynamic type of industry and things change. And the most important thing is to make sure that companies are aligned with the national agenda and regulations that are very broad. We come in and we dissect them into how to actually go from. So there's a regulation, and how do you actually match that regulation? And there's so many layers in between.
Sure. You have to keep up with it constantly. I think that's part of being a consultant in this field. Because if you're not up to date for your clients, it's a disservice to them, actually. But you're then making sure that that data is accurate, that it's consistent, that it is redone as necessary with new standards and updated regulations, which is very, very important. Do you see yourself ever shifting outside of the UAE, or do you see yourself focusing on really making a massive impact here?
So the goal is to expand into the region, which we already are, and then go on a global level. UAE is the model to follow.
It is, absolutely.
Just the way that economies and countries look at UAE as a model to replicate on their own. That's what we're doing in sustainability. And the way we do it is that we bring the collaborative approach. We bring in all the stakeholders, from government, from corporates, from startups, from investors, from climate champions, put them all in one room and say, hey, let's work out something that works for all of us. So the one thing we've suggested to the federal government is any future regulations that will come in the next months and next years, there needs to be some sort of a sandbox that includes all the stakeholders, so that it's an inclusive policy and it's not a policy that's done separately from them.
That's right. You want to make sure that everyone involved is actually involved. It kind of goes along with how you said you are local. You are born and raised here. You know how the cultures, you understand the people. You're not an outsider coming in and forcing, Western regulations or standards. And same goes for when you're changing the environment, or the sandbox, as you call it. You want to make sure that it's inclusive. So that means, correct me if I'm wrong, but the people who you are building the legislations for, they should be involved.
Exactly.
They deserve a word and a say in all of this.
Well, and it's important because then they would follow the regulations.
Yes.
We've seen a lot of times where regulations haven't been inclusive, and specifically corporations who can afford to create loopholes would create loopholes, right? And they'll find the loopholes and they'll exploit them just to not follow regulations. But what if we can just avoid the whole thing? We just say everyone is going to follow because they're part of the process. Mm-hmm. So when you're a part of something that is big, that is on a macro level, you feel an obligation for you to follow that because you contributed to it.
You are giving back in a way that undoubtedly will change the future as we know it. And thank you so much for all of your contributions, the time and the passion that you put into this, because we need someone to do it. And I see you're doing great work here.
We're not strangers as a country and as a society of being disruptors and doing great things. So in that space, it's a space that we can definitely move.
It's time to move the needle.
Exactly.
Amazing. I did some research and I found out you also give back in other ways, in some really beautiful ways. Would you be open to talking about those as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always believed that the more you give without the expectation of getting back, the more you get back.
Absolutely.
Life only gets better that way.
Islamically, the more you receive, the more you should give as well, right?
Exactly. So, yeah, and the concept of zakah is basically the prime example of that. But it's also, though, shifting the perspective of looking at business or people who own businesses as people who just want to make the most profits, to
Money,
record the highest number of revenues, and the ROI is, it's no longer a type of approach that is sustainable, that is even feasible, because if you want to be here in the next 25, 30 years, you need to start thinking about what you give back to the community.
Your legacy.
Exactly.
The impact that you're having. Your impact is not just within the sustainability and ESG space, but it's also on the people around you, on the women, on the children, the young minds. Is that what inspired you to write your books, actually?
So psychology played a big part in writing my books. But then I found it from interacting with a lot of different people and coaching. I've coached a lot of amazing women founders on their startups that scaled and grew to valuations that exceeded the hundreds of millions of dollars. And I take pride of that, because it's women taking a male-dominated space and changing the narrative that it can be done. And we're no different in ways where we can't be, multitaskers. We can't raise a family and be successful business women. It's changing that,
Yeah.
A male and a female still have their own traits that make them special, and this is why nature have created us. But we can use those specific traits and excel in anything.
Absolutely.
The same space, different approaches. There's no one way of looking at things. There's multiple ways of doing it.
Okay, I'm a woman, obviously, so I have to ask, you've worked with many female-led startups, successful ones, very successful ones, as you mentioned. Are there any specific traits or anything that sticks out to you working with these incredible women that really opened your mind in any way?
Adaptability, agility is the main trait. Two traits that I can say. I prefer working with women because the ego element is not there.
Very interesting. That's very interesting.
So with male founders, there's a lot of ego, a lot of pushback. Oh, we've done it this way. It worked in the past. So
rigidity.
Exactly. It's about the need of being right. With women, it's more about absorbing. And it's a type of mentality that makes you flexible to changes in the market, to changes in the space that you operate in. And if agility is one trait, it would be the one that would determine the success of a company.
Thank you. If we zoom out and we look forward, what would you hope the next 20 years to look like for you?
I have a bold, let's call it, vision.
Yes, I welcome this.
I haven't shared it in public from before, so you'll probably have firsthand insight about it. The goal is to create a fully circular sustainable city, which doesn't exist today. Sustainable cities that we have are not completely circular. So we've started a real estate project that we have, and we're scaling it up to communities, and then from communities would eventually build a full-fledged sustainable city. And also it would be a test bed for tech startups in climate tech, in agri-tech, and sustainability, ESG startups, where we can test these technologies and apply them on a national level, and then expanding it to a regional and an international sphere.
You want to create a sandbox for these brilliant young minds and their circular, sustainable tech startups to come and work together once you've built a real estate MVP for the foundation of it and create this ecosystem that is fully circular because it hasn't been done yet.
Exactly.
Amazing. Inshallah. Amazing. Speaking of young minds, so you've talked about aligning your purpose, your vision, making sure you're clear on your purpose before you take action. Aside from that, what advice would you give to any young leaders or young minds?
Go for it.
Go for it. Absolutely.
3 words that pretty much defined most of my experience in the business world. Every time I started a company, I said, how am I going to do it? But then I say, well, you have your why. The how is just going to unravel as you move forward. And the moment I exit or I sell the company, I look back and I say, it's impressive how I actually did it. Because when you think about it too much before starting, you'll never get to see how it is.
Mm-hmm.
And from an end result. But when you reach the end, you ask yourself, how did I do it?
Absolutely.
So
I always feel like we're divinely guided, and you just have to put that trust in yourself as well. Just have faith. We should get you a partnership with Nike. Just do it. Go for it. It's so true. You never know, but it's always, if you don't do anything, you're still going to look back and think maybe what if. But if you just go for it, I've always found you'll look back and you'll be like, oh, that's why. I'm glad that I did that. And so for all the young minds, just go for it.
I've seen great ideas, never seen the day of light. And this is what basically differentiates between turning ideas into real businesses.
What happens to those individuals who are bright minds and they've got a great vision and they have a plan, but maybe they have a limitation, and maybe that's a financial limitation or something that's out of your control? How do they get around that?
The general misconception of you only start when you're ready is completely false. You're never ready.
Never, yeah.
You're never ready for anything in life. You make yourself ready. So if you have something on a piece of paper that tells you need to start, or these are limitations, or once you have these things you will start, you'll just keep on living tomorrow, and pushing the timeline further. Start small, because compounded growth, compounding effect, and we've seen it in investment, 0.5% in 25, 30 years can be a lot of money.
The way I see it is our external reality is a sum of our internal reality plus the experiences that we've had. Even if you're failing, it's like you're building a house, you're creating some sort of foundation of your experiences. And even if you fail, that's one brick you get to add to the foundation of your house.
Exactly.
So as long as you just keep going, just go for it. You're going to learn more. All of those experiences are going to compound. And before you know it, you're going to have a solid foundation to stand upon.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the idea of 1%, I always say.
1%.
Make sure that every day you go out there and you say, how can I be 1% better? How can I grow by 1%? You don't need to reach the 100%. But the idea of compounding goes a long way. My first business pretty much crashed big time.
Wow.
I've invested a lot of money. It's a learning experience at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
It's not every time you find some founder that would have the first successful business. It doesn't work. There's no such thing as overnight success.
No.
I didn't look at it as a failed business. Until today, I look at it as a building block, a shift in perspective that brought me to where I am today. Because if it wasn't for that, I don't know where I would be today.
Overnight success is not possible nor sustainable. You can be the visionary that changes everything if you just go for it and take action. And thank you so much, Faisal, for sitting down today, for sharing insights onto who you are, who you have been, and most importantly, where you are going and what is coming next. I've really enjoyed this. Thank you. This is Catalyst Unlocked. Raw stories, real shifts, bold futures. Broadcast from the UAE, where tomorrow begins today. This is Catalyst Unlocked. Raw stories, real shifts, bold futures.